Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Today, I am Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning. I'm Neota Igbe.
From Lagos, good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Aya Makinde. Good morning and welcome. Today, just in case you forgot, it's September 28. We're inching closer to October 1, aren't we, Auntie Neota?
I don't know why you want me to corroborate your calendar. Yeah, but yes, we're inching close to October 1, just about 2 days before Nigeria's anniversary, 63rd independent anniversary. And quite a number of things that a lot of people will be talking about. The fact that Nigeria is 63 years old and still we've moved from one area back and forth, especially, let me narrow it down to education. We do remember, our teachers and our parents tell us stories of when they went to school. This particular story I like because of what I studied in school. So you spend 1 hour in class doing theory. You spend an hour, 30 minutes to 2 hours doing practicals. And it's amazing how much of that knowledge which you got theoretically, you are able to take up. Now, according to the latest records by the World Bank, as of November 2022, Nigeria's literacy rate was 62% by 2018. Statista says 68% of youth in Nigeria in 2020 had received secondary education. Around 15% of them had completed primary education, and 17% pursued higher studies after secondary school. Now, these are statistics out there from the World Bank and Statista. But it's not enough to have the numbers. Okay, this percentage has attended secondary school, this percentage has gone further beyond secondary school. It's the quality of that education that they received. How practicable is it? Around, I think, 1986 or thereabout, 86, 87, something was introduced, 6334 system, saying that at a certain time, technical education was going to be infused into our learning. So as at the time you're getting to JS3, you have all manner, a plethora of things. We had intro tech labs, we had science labs, where by the time you're done with your secondary education, in fact, at that time what was said was that when you're done with your secondary education at JS3, at class 3, you could actually go out and get a job based on the technical skills you had acquired. I know a young man who did that from JS3, went on to take City and Guild, and he survived on City and Guild until he passed on. Guess what he was doing? Building technology. At the end of the day, the question is it possible to look at what we had? I'm not saying we need to return to all that but we look at the quality of education we had and find a way out of it. Here, if we go by what the Minister of Education said, very soon Nigeria is going to budget at least 25% of its budget towards education, 20 to 25%, which is a UN recommendation. Can we not just throw money at this, but look at how to rework the curriculum? Is it possible? Aya.
Well, since we are talking figures, I saw one more here, Nyota. Then I'll yield the floor to Bukola. According to Get Bundy, an online education technology outfit, 85% of Nigeria's graduates have no digital skills. Let's begin from there. Bukola.
Oh, well, first of all, I'd like to start by looking or rethinking our conversation with the Minister of Education yesterday. First of all, let's start with the good side. It's cheery to note that he is reiterating the administration's commitment to investing 25% of the national budget to education. And we hope that all stakeholders in that sector will be keeping their eyes on subsequent budgets from year 2023 to see that indeed the administration makes good its commitment to invest that sum in the education sector. Now, how it will be distributed and how it will be executed, for the well-being of education, particularly from the local government level up until the tertiary level at the federal level across board, will be important. But one aspect, that Nigerians may be rethinking is his position, that Nigerians are seeking quality education abroad and in states, as close as Niger Republic, Benin Republic, is a result of global connectedness rather than the issues that are back home. That leaves, a lot of people doing, a second take, a double take about that position. Is it really a result of global connectedness or the instability, particularly in the tertiary education sector, with strikes all year round, with issues of lecturers' welfare not addressed? Nigerians, would rather choose education that is certain, even if it is in neighboring states as close as Niger Republic, where the quality of education may not be comparable to Nigeria. As a matter of fact, this even brings to mind events as recent as sometime in the middle of this year or early this year, where the federal government had to intervene to bring back Nigerians from war-torn Sudan, only for us to discover that a lot of them, sought education in a country that, draws no parallel with Nigeria where education is concerned. So it's important, for the federal government to be honest, about the issues back home. But since we're looking at education as well, it's important for us to also draw another aspect that is just as important, which we want the subnationals to look into. I'm taking it from the gender perspective this time around. 43%, that's according to Girls Not Bride. 43% of girls in Nigeria are married before their 18th birthday, and 16% are married before the age of 15. It will also interest you to know that 3% of boys in Nigeria are also married before the age of 18. So the subnationals should also begin to look at that and see how those numbers can reduce significantly. In fact, to zero level, where we can give our children the opportunity to be children, to learn while they're children, and not make them adults before their time.
That's exactly where I wanted to start about states, because most of the time when we talk about issues in the country, we are talking to or about the federal government. You mentioned the Minister of Education, but then what is the role of the federal government? It's largely coordinating and administrative. The states and private sector, of course, have a significant role to play. We talked about the Universal Basic Education, UBEC, but you don't also forget that we have SUBEB, the State Universal Basic Education Boards. What their role is in all of these, is something that should give us concern. And, Nyota, I like the fact that you mentioned tech skills and all of those things. We have those structures in place. The question I always ask in my own heart is, who is looking at these things? Recently, we had that conversation, and someone was suggesting that we need to retool. I think it was Chamberlain that was mentioning we need to retool the curriculum so that it can be functional. What is the Nigerian vision? I keep asking that question because this is the nucleus of it. The president spoke about it quite a few times. And I think it was on Monday when we have, Dr. Samadiem, who was also talking about the fact that the bedrock of development in the country has to be education. So this is where we are. The challenges are right there in our faces. We have 36 state governors. What is your state doing about education to ensure that that education is relevant to the people in the immediate environment, in the immediate community, and then we take it up from there? I saw a video years ago where old people, grandparents, were learning coding in Mandarin, the Chinese language. These things are not far-fetched. It is the responsibility of government, we saw it at, I think it's in Section 18 of the Constitution, to provide free primary, secondary, and tertiary education, even adult literacy, as at when, possible. But then maybe that is where the federal government has been hiding. Is it possible now, or is it not possible now? What matters to us now is if there is any hope in the future, if there's going to be any vision. Without education, we are simply not going anywhere. Chamberlain.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also hugely encouraging to hear. Buki also highlighted that, but the Minister of Education did say we intend to, allocate 25% of a budget to education. That is good to hear because just 2023, the former minister of finance, Zainab, was quoted to have said, well, we budgeted 1.79 trillion naira to education. That represents, look at that, 8.2%. Just 8.2% of the appropriation bill to the education sector. And this is what we'll try to highlight time and again, how we need to ensure that we do a lot more. And it's not just about how much we allocate to the education sector, it is what has become of even the ones we allocated in the first instance. What plans can you say we are pursuing? What do you see? So, because if not, even if you allocate that 25%, you may get the same kind of result if that foundation upon which we will implement all of these things are not sorted. Because there are several things actually. We know we have several funding platforms or agencies to ensure that states leverage on funding. They always say, for the most part, that the states, there doesn't seem to be that kind of agreement between state and federal government in terms of pooling those funds. And if you just want to look for examples, government technical colleges, federal government colleges, all of those schools that are owned by federal and states, where you can acquire a lot of technical skills, how are they at the moment? Yeah, you can guess. If you did guess that they're in bad shape, spot on. So we need to take examples from all of those. So let there be models that they can tell us, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is where we should be targeting moving forward. So a lot of responsibility on states, their budgets, and how they implement all of these things. The quality of students we get from those states, that's where a lot of these things rise and fall. If those states, if they're not up and doing because they seem to be emperors unto themselves, nobody seems to be able to ask them questions and account for all of those funds. So if that is not corrected, who knows? But we'll look to see if this government will give it the kind of attention and proper structure that it does deserve, because that is the foundation. If we need to even get people out of poverty, if we need to get the economy up and running, we need proper skill sets, education. All right, that's it. Let's take you through some of the dailies, and we're beginning with Leadership newspaper this morning. The theme here says, as Tinubu returns, as many have been wondering, where is the president? If hunger has ended, they stop by somewhere for private checks, what's going on? But now it says, as Tinubu returns, labor strike, fuel crisis, others beg for attention. And the writer here says, food prices soar amid rising inflation. Hardship continues as palliatives delay. President may return today. So now it says may return today. So, and then even though the theme says as Tinubu returns, so just watching to see what happens to all of those. So both at the federal and state levels, those palliatives, which are actually stopgap measures, what kind of impact are they having? Are they being properly distributed? What platforms, what templates do they have? Can you check anywhere and see, okay, this is the official template moving forward, we can rely on this one. Can we say the same of all of those states who are doing something? And if those other states have not, what are they waiting for? Wait a minute, what about SMEs, private sector individuals, employers of labor? They also should have a look in the scheme of things, because look, these chaps provide huge palliatives to several citizens in this country. And by the way, Mr. Yedele, we're watching to see the impact of this committee. Look, right now, many people expect that a lot should have been happening, but I guess I'm not sure if the president has assented to anything yet, because right after he came back from India, jetted out to Onga, and the way it continues. So if he returns today, who knows? He's got a lot on his table waiting. So, and then you see floating naira. Importers abandon Tokumba cars at seaports. Oh, yeah. Dashing many hopes at that. So that's a tough one, I guess. That's the leadership this morning.
The Guardian is the next one, and they're starting out with a look at the petroleum industry. It said lax PIA implementation leaves NNPCL, NUPRC, NNPDRA disarray. The ends are too many.
What?
Says lax PIA implementation leaves 3 organizations, NNPCL, NUPRC, NMDPRA, in disarray. Page 6, you see the details, but you see the picture there of the president who, well, going by the way things are right now, it's not been announced. It appears he's still holding on to the Minister of Petroleum office because there is a Minister of State for Petroleum. Yeah. So we don't have a Minister for Petroleum announced. It's not been announced.
Okay, so it's on just the unannounced one.
It's just the unannounced one, so to speak. But hey, the Minister of State for Petroleum's there.
If you sit back and you think about these companies as probably a regular citizen, I wonder what, if you ask them, what impact do you think these companies have made in your lives as regular citizens? What comes to mind?
Chamberlain, people are employed there, they're earning a salary and their families.
I'm not talking about those who are employed there. I'm talking about
whether they're doing what
Nigerians. What kind of impact can they say these companies have made? Other than, well, when it comes to fuel price increase, lack of petrol supply.
So that thing about fuel pricing.
Talking about corporate social responsibility, making an impact across the board.
Yeah. So maybe when we begin to implement the PIA as it's supposed to be, we'll see a different thing altogether. But let's move it there. Go to page 6 to get more details on that. Diesel may trade near 1,500 per litre as oil prices spike. You know, yesterday one of the dailies also had this matter of fact that some companies are likely going to shut down owing to this price of diesel as it rises.
Remember the House of, was it Senate or House of? Senate was citing an MBS report that says about what, over 300, is it 350 or 370 companies have shut down over time.
And many more are still on the brink of shutting down unless something changes. Power needed.
Minister, where are you?
Okay, so page 18 will give you more on that one. Then Ondo lawmaker shun court order, move to impeach deputy governor. They say the courts can't stop them. They have to do what they have to do. Well, let's leave it at there for, this one. LP back strike as Oluomo warns NLC against interfering with NURTW. That's it from the Guardian newspaper.
Well, up next is this Nigerian newspaper, which also leads with something that suggests that in that sector, it's less than perfect. But maybe disarray is closer to it, and that's in the agriculture sector. Listen to this. Nigeria ranks 6th in global food inflation rates, as ascribed to a report. And, you know, by extension, just one rider, but it also says a lot. Manufacturing sector records 3,567 job losses in H1 2023. It's a page 30 read, but it says a whole lot.
Can we remove that word inflation from that headline?
And we'll be left with
Nigeria ranks 6th
in global food rates.
It would just be lovely.
6 from behind? Or?
No, it would just be lovely.
Well,
that's a vision, right?
If wishes were horses,
No, it's not a wish. Now let's cast a vision. What's wrong? Listen to Dr. Adishino. He says over and over again, there is no reason why Africa should lag behind in food production.
There is no reason why Nigeria should lag behind in food production either, with vast lands of its nearly 1 million square kilometer land, on tap. The country director for the World Food Program keeps reminding us over and over again that nobody's farming those lands because there is no security. Once there is peace, there will be production. Those were the last words from the WFP. So what are we doing? The federal government, under this young administration, declared a state of emergency in the agriculture sector. Is there anything to suggest that indeed there's a state of emergency in that sector? There is, ongoing distribution of food palliatives, and part of that, by the way, is also the planned distribution of fertilizer for farmers. Is that happening? And is that in fact backed up by security, emergency kind of security situation on those lands such that the farmers can feel safe? But it appears as if it's still business as usual in that sector.
I still muse over the fact that Benue is the food basket of the nation, and look at what we're having. Anyway, more headlines?
Yeah, more headlines from the front page of this Nigeria this morning. Just beside the nameplate, there's something happening in the FCT. Perhaps Nyota and Chamberlain will fill us in on more details. Wike fires 21 officials in FCTA parastatals, agencies, and companies. That's a page 2 read inside this Nigeria. A few more just before we go. The crisis in the transport sector in Lagos appears to be far from over, as NURTW to NLC, that tells NLC, don't meddle in our internal crisis. That's suggesting that it's a reference to Lagos following that strike led by the TUC just days ago. But that's a page 7 read also from the front page of this Nigeria. And there's this one that, I cannot ignore. Bandits kill 6, injure 4 others in fresh southern Kaduna attacks. When will we stop reading such headlines? Let's leave it there for this Nigeria.
The Vanguard newspaper has on its front page something related to the strike and the labor movement. Strike. How labor veterans got NLC, TUC to close ranks. That's the lead story of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. NLC, TUC, each working separate agenda for same purpose. As one of the writers on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. NLC not carrying us along, TUC alleges. TUC betrayed our trust, NLC counters. Veterans of labor movements intervene. NLC, TUC leaders meet, iron out differences, jointly declare strike. Labour Party backs strike.
That's a lot to unpack there.
Absolutely.
Working separate agenda for same purposes, and yet again the close ranks. So what's happening? The joint announcement for the call for a strike on October the 3rd, is that for the optics? I'm just asking this morning.
Well, the details you'll find on page 14 of the Vanguard newspaper. Clearly, we're unable to still be able to put that up. But quickly, Mr. and Mrs., before we go back to Abuja, Mr. is complaining, I will do everything you want, but you have to be patient. One proverb says, with patience, you can boil stone to become soft.
I've never heard about that proverb.
Yes. And Mrs. says, with increase in price of gas and kerosene, look for another proverb. That's the Vanguard newspaper this morning.
Well, they both appear to be in their elements this morning.
Okay, let me see if there's any proverb in Nigerian Tribune this morning. Well, no luck with this lead story today. Experts chart way forward for CBN governor. That's a front page lead of the Tribune. And look at the host of riders that they've got on that front page as well, because also making some recommendations in terms of what to do, how to proceed. If I look at this one, which says recommend Farmers Bank. Now, Farmers Bank, I know, but the question that you also have to ask with this recommendation of Farmers Bank, as they're charting way forward for the CBN governor and his team. So the DMBs, the banks that we already do have, are they performing the core banking functions? If not, why not? If they were, what kind of impact will they have? I know he spoke about, they also did ask him about intervention agencies. What's going on with that? Do they have it? So that's part of what is being recommended here. They also advocate clearing of Nigeria's outstanding forward payments. And then you get to see want stringent measures to check activities of BDCs. So what a task it would be. That's Tribune today.
Okay, Business Day is next, and they lead with that Big story, they call it. Organ theft exposes cracks in Nigeria's healthcare system. Remember that story about the doctor who was taking organs of his patients? That was from Plateau. The investigation is still on, but from that one person, it's been discovered that several other patients of his also lost 1 or 2 organs. And as I said, still on. But then, so that story is on that's what they lead with on Business Day. Continues from the first page. But see this one, FG takes $1.95 billion World Bank loans, ignores debt concerns. Economic team has their work cut out indeed. Well, go to page 30 from the front page, continues on page 30, and that's it from the Business Day.
And up next is the Nigerian News Direct this morning, which is looking ahead to October the 3rd, following that declaration of strike by organized labor. Take a look at the headline. October 3 strike, LP backs organized labor as anxiety mounts. Says Tinubu's government punishing workers for voiding their choice at election. That's a page 3 read inside the Nigerian News Direct. There are more stories this morning from the front page. Take a look at this one above the nameplate. Voter apathy. INEC raises alarm on insecurity, violence in Imo, Kogi. Indeed, those are the concerns ahead of the off-cycle elections in those states, and we hope that that is attended to immediately. Just one more story. This got a lot of Nigerians talking yesterday, and it was cheery to note as President Biden appoints 2 Nigerians into Advisory Council on African Diaspora Engagement. And they got a congratulatory message from the boss of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM. And that's it from the front page of the Nigerian News Direct.
Very interesting story. That is, one of the papers mentioned their names specifically, and that's a very good one. Daily Independent has this on its front page, and it seems that story is not going anywhere anytime soon. Afenifere asks Obasanjo to apologize publicly to monarchs. And one writer tasks Southwest governors on DAWN for socio-economic development. DAWN is development agenda for Western Nigeria. Find the details continue on the inside pages. No one wants that issue to settle, right? I guess we'll see.
I'm sure the monarchs wanted to settle as soon as possible because the video is definitely not cheery to watch. And another surfaced yesterday online of where the former president, was he kneeling now in obeisance to the traditional ruler in his community, his popular Ota community, and for me that didn't diminish the former president. It only showed that he has deep respect for our cultural values. But how that now relates to that video of him demanding some form of respect from the monarchs at that event, well, I really don't know, and I don't want to weigh in on that one.
Well, well, let's listen to what he said. I mean, he said, look, when he put out a statement to kind of speak to it, to the accusations being leveled at, look, in Nigeria, the Constitution is superior to culture. How far that argument will go, I guess we'll wait to see.
Are we going to need lawyers to interpret that again?
I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going to
just asking this morning, that the Constitution is superior. I think we're going to need lawyers to interpret that.
You're going to have to go ahead and have a hard talk on that one.
You said that the story is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Go and have a hard talk on Bukola going into that. Idil Maulud. That's the story at the bottom of the picture on the front page of Daily Independent this morning. Reps, Speaker, Governors, PDP urge prayers over Nigeria's challenges. Find the details continue on the inside pages. But this cheery, hopeful one, Sanwo-Olu orders contractors to deliver Red Line Rail before end of 2023. Is this not 2023?
Yes.
This is 2023?
This is 2023.
How about 3 months ago?
3 months.
October, November, December. Okay, well, so the clock is ticking.
It's ticking. It's also ticking for the refineries, by the way. I don't know why my mind keeps going back to the refineries, particularly when you consider 630 naira per litre for the price of petrol. So the clock is ticking as well. And on the delivery date for the first of the refineries, that's the Port Harcourt refinery.
The clock is definitely ticking on the price of oil in the global market. That's the papers this morning, and the clock is ticking for the next item coming up right after this break. Do stay with us.
Solidarity songs from members of the National Executive Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, rent the air as the two labour centres prepared to brief journalists on the resolutions from their separate meetings held earlier in the day.
TUC NLC, stronger together.
The labour leaders have been at loggerheads with the federal government since the removal of subsidy on petrol 3 months ago. Besides holding meetings with the Minister of Labour and other representatives of the federal government, the NLC and TUC also staged a nationwide protest in August with 10 demands, which includes immediate reversal of the current pump price of petrol, payment of salary arrears for university lecturers, wage awards for civil servants, renegotiation of minimum wage, fixing of the refineries, among others. At this joint news conference, the labour leaders accused the government of deliberately ignoring their demands and therefore declared an indefinite nationwide strike.
The government has totally abdicated this responsibility and has shown gross unwillingness to act, abandoning Nigerian people and workers to excruciating poverty and affliction. The federal government has therefore not met in any substantial way the demands of the Nigerian workers and the people as previously canvassed in our mutually agreed roadmap.
The NLC and TUC neck in section resolved as follows. 1, to embark on an indefinite and total shutdown of the nation beginning on 0 hours, Tuesday, the 3rd day of October 2023. 3, to direct all workers in Nigeria to withdraw their services from their respective workplaces, commencing from the 3rd of October 2023.
On Monday, September 25, the Minister of Labour appealed to the workers' unions not to embark on a strike. The statement signed by the Director of Press and Public Relations reads in part, the processes leading to the fulfillment of the other requests of the NLC, especially wage award, are on course and will be concluded soon. The Minister therefore called on the NLC not to embark on their planned strike. As it stands, the federal government and other relevant bodies that can intervene in the matters that have led to this strike still have up till Monday, October 2, to come to a round table with the workers' unions and perhaps get a reversal to the indefinite action already declared by the two labour centres.
All right, welcome back. Well, actually, apologies for your younger brother there. Well, you were the one who intervened today. Abdullahi Tanko Yakasai, SSA Community Engagement, Northwest to the President. He joins us here in the studios. Good morning and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chamberlain.
So, what is the current situation now, ever since your appointment?
First of all, before I say anything, I would like to thank Mr. President for this opportunity given to me as a Senior Special Assistant on Northwest Community Engagement. Well, we've just started, we've just gotten the appointment, and we're working around the clock to see what is it that we're going to do, what is it that we're going to bring to the people, especially our zone, the Northwest, because community engagement entails a lot. You have to collaborate, probably first and foremost, with the chief executive of that state, that's the governor, make sure programs of government are getting down to the grassroots. From then, you now have to engage with the traditional rulers because they are the custodians of the traditions, you know, and the cultural heritage of those people. So it has a lot of segments for which we have to be engaging to make sure the policies and programs of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is being felt by the people at the grassroots level, be it the youth groups, women groups, vulnerables, displaced people, disabled people. It entails a lot. So we've just started and we're working around the clock to make sure whatever policy is there from the federal government, it trickles down to the right channel, the right people. So that is what...
Does it mean that you're going to be, in addition to your role, will that also entail supervision to ensure all of these policies get down, and then you're also coming up with what, advice, or how is that going to play out?
Well, you see, we've never had this kind of position before.
Yeah.
This is the first time Mr. President has thought it well that there's a big disconnect between the government and those at the downtrodden of the ladder. So we will be engaging, we will be discussing, we will be giving suggestions, and we will be making sure all programs of government trickle down to those at the lower level, be it in terms of provision of education, on SMEs, on whichever aspect it is very, the scope is so wide, you just have to be strategic to make sure whatever you're going to do, key into what the government is
Because
doing.
I mean, looking at the Northwest, that's huge. It means you have to be moving around different states, local government areas. Well, doesn't this show that there really is indeed a gap, notwithstanding the fact that we have state governors who are supposed to do a job, we have local government chairmen, we have councillors, we have members of the House of Reps at the federal level, we have states who are all they're there to ensure that policies, whatever they do, get to the people. It looks as if there's still work to be done.
There's a whole lot of work to be done because all these people you're mentioning are key actors, you know, and they do their own bit. But this is for you to be directly getting those things needed to be done and advising the federal government, especially Mr. President, that there's a challenge here, there's a challenge there. And then if you prefer a solution, maybe the federal government will look at it and collaborate with the state actors so that things are being done rightly. You know, there's a huge place because we have 7 states in the Northwest, which is the biggest. And we'll do our best because, just like I said, this is the maiden. Where the maiden.
I was just wondering, having been appointed, many will wonder, so what structure, what template, what indices are you going to be looking at for, with which you'll be able to come up with your judgment or measurement? Because here, time and again, we've always asked, if states say they're distributing palliatives, what is for instance, is there a template? Is there a document? Is there a list that anybody can check and say, indeed, these people say, yes, they have gotten this. This is a standard or accepted list. So what would you be relying on?
You see, the state governors have their independence because they're the chief executives of those states. So whatever they're doing, like on the issue of the palliatives you mentioned, yes, the governors have done their best, and we've seen it. You, the media, should tell us more, because we've seen in some states where the governors directly get involved, like Katsina State. It's everywhere. They directly get involved in disbursement of these palliatives. So all we need to do with our position is to make sure we follow up the latter, to make sure that this distribution is done transparently, with all honesty, and that those that are meant to benefit from these programs surely benefit. There are lots of programs from the federal government that our people don't even access. You see, there's Maiden, there's NDE, there's primary health care, there's a whole lot of agencies that are meant to be doing a lot of things for the common man. So we will pursue even these agencies to make sure this kind of programs should go to those people at the lower cadre of the society.
You know, when you talked about engagement, community engagement, you mentioned governors, you mentioned traditional rulers. You've just mentioned some of the things that the federal government is doing, and you're talking about getting it to the grassroots. How much of the grassroots would you be getting into? If you're talking about governors and tribes, they are there. Chairman has mentioned that. They're already there. So there's really nothing, in quote, new that you're going to be talking to them that they don't already know. You're going to be asking them, or would you be going into the nooks and crannies to ask the people? That question about the data you're going to be working with.
Yes, that is what Mr. President expects from us. We need to go down to those villages, those local governments. You see, like the issue of a whole lot of issues. But I can take, for example, one, the issue of maternal death. You know, this is one peculiar area where we've been having a lot of challenges. And it doesn't take much for us to reduce the number of maternal deaths. So these are some of the things that you need to go and do your best. Make sure all the sufferings of the people at the lower cadre is being incentivized, maybe through these agencies of government, through NGOs. There are a whole lot of NGOs that are ready to partner with the states, that are ready to come into the country, especially now with the goodwill of Mr. President. They want to come in and do a lot. So we have to engage them too. The traditional rulers, they don't have a constitutional role, but they are the custodians of the traditional institution. They know what the problem of their people are. And these are kind of engagements we'll do so that we get feedback, because feedback is very key. We get feedback and then channel it to the right channel.
To stay on this question. I mean, you said this is new. This is the first time this office is emerging. Yes. It's never been.
Yes.
And fortunately, you've been privileged to be the first to occupy this office. So some people out there will be asking, okay, Mr. Tanko Yakusa, tell us what your dream is to ensure that this office is impacting. What's your vision? How are you going to ensure? I mean, with specifics. Okay. You're talking in general terms now.
Okay.
But let's break it down a little bit. How are you going to ensure that you're engaging enough to bring the president the information he needs, make policies that will reach to the grassroots?
We'll take what we intend to do, like from my zone, we intend to take those critical areas like unemployed youth. We're targeting sectors like the ICT and see how many numbers can we come up with? What programs can we do with the youth so that they can be engaged on ICT, on renewable energy, on agriculture, on small and medium enterprises, on vocational and skills acquisition, health. You know, these are things we have highlighted that we will pursue and make sure that we get people not only to train them like on skills acquisition and vocational training, but we follow it up and make sure that these people become self-independent.
Wouldn't that be a duplication of duties or responsibilities? Because the local government is councillors are there. They'll probably tell you that this is what they'll be looking at also, how to get the youth employed, how to give them skills. And some have even gone ahead, it's out there in media space that some went to give them shoe shining kit in some states.
Yes.
But there are governments in place and institutions in place that are already doing this. Wouldn't that be duplicating functions?
It's not been
Would you be looking at how to ensure that they have power?
It's not.
What are they going to do with lack of power? What are they going to do with no information out there, information for them to access some of the things you said are there already.
Yes, you see, this is why Mr. President thought of creating these positions. Because, yes, the local government are doing their best, they're doing their own part. But the truth of the matter is, do they get access to the top, that's to the federal government, to lay out their programs and problems? So once you have that connect between the presidency and the local people, you telling the president what you think is given those bottlenecks, that will bring synergy, I think, because local government chairman will not have access. We have 774 local governments. How can the president be engaging individual local government chairmen? It's not going to be possible. So you, as his representative there, you now get the peculiar problem of that region, and then you table it to Mr. President and tell him, these are the bottlenecks for us to achieve this and this and this. And this is how he's going to use that information gathered for him to really make sure these programs are implemented for the betterment of Nigerians.
I'd like you to take a look at some of this information gathered. It's out there, actually. It has to do with the price of diesel, gas. Let's start with that of the Southwest. In Lagos, for instance, it's in parts of Lagos, you get diesel being sold for 980 naira per liter. Then you get that of PMS, in some areas, 595 naira per liter. If you move down to the Southeast, diesel, in some areas, 1,100. And then, gas is 950 naira per liter. And then the PMS that's cooking gas, actually. 915 for 12 kg. And then PMS, 630 naira per liter. North Central, for instance, here in Abuja, diesel goes for 1,130. Cooking gas, 12 kg, you get in some areas for 1,000 naira. No, not 1,000 naira, actually. Then you get premium motor spirits, 620 naira in some petrol stations. Yes, NNPCL, maybe 613, thereabout. Then in the South, you get diesel going for 1,100, fuel 610 in Northeast, for instance, in Kano, look at that price. So it's in Northwest too, where you're going to cover similar narrative. What kind of story, or what would you be telling people in Northwest, for instance, about this? Because already some of them feel, oh dear, how did we get ourselves into this?
Well, you see, the issue on this fuel subsidy, I keep telling people, Nigeria, we've been holding ourselves in a ditch because you can't give what you don't have. We've been borrowing money to be doing the subsidy. The cumulative generated revenue of the country monthly goes to servicing this subsidy. So for me, yes, it's biting hard. People are feeling the pains of removing fuel subsidy. But we can't continue to be borrowing to service the subsidy. So be it as it may, as you mentioned all these prices of PMS, of kerosene and all the petroleum products, we have to look and be honest to ourselves. We don't have the money to subsidize. So the best thing is remove the subsidy, top up that money from the subsidy, and then use it to, develop the country. This is what Mr. President is talking about. The governors of the 36 states of the Federation haven't had this kind of, allocation in the last 8 years, because every money that comes to the government is used in subsidizing fuel. So the chunk of the money now that we have as excess from the stoppage of the, subsidy is what is being given to the states, and they're using it for palliatives. There could be other forms of incentivizing the local people, the Nigerians, with this subsidy fuel. But to be honest with you, you can't be borrowing money every day to feed yourself, to do all the services you need, while you don't have the source of income to repay that loan. So this is the reality. So we have to do a lot of awareness campaigns through TV stations like yours, through radio stations, through community enlightenment programs, so as to tell the people the benefit of removing this fuel subsidy. Because the money is going to only few people. But now, how many people have gotten this palliatives?
They don't see those few
How
people.
many people have gotten this palliatives?
That they say,
before it was only, you can count the number of people getting the chunk of the money from the subsidy.
Now, the thing is this. If it's going to those few people, it's assumed that they're acquiring it wrongly. But at the moment, there hasn't been anything whatsoever to indicate that this and those people are guilty of having frittered away this subsidy as a result of which we're putting a stop to it. That hasn't happened. And even if you tell them, well, we need to do this because of this, they're going to ask, okay, so what's the end game? Are we going to, because look, if it's going to be based on the exchange of the dollar, we know what to expect because it will keep rising. So there'll be so many questions at that.
So, well, honestly, we have to face reality. We have to face reality because this money from the fuel subsidy is being channeled to various segments that will impact the lives of the people.
Some are saying, use that money, build refineries, so you can rein in the cost of petroleum products.
Hopefully, we're hoping the Port Harcourt refinery is coming on board by December. Once that is done, the Warri refinery comes on board, the Kaduna refinery comes on board, the Dangote refinery comes on board, then you see that the price will be going down. These are realities. We have had a lot of, we've abandoned our responsibility, and that is why Mr. President is being respected now worldwide, because he has taken the bull by the horn. This subsidy has to go. It is just, you know it, Chamberlain. It has to go. But the only thing is, we would like to see that it is being channeled to the right places, and that is why, in fact, Mr. President thought of coming up with these positions, so that whatever he's going to do with this surplus, so to say now, that we have from the, which is from the removal of the fuel subsidy, whatever surplus we're going to have should be channeled appropriately so that the Nigerian populace, the poor, will feel the impact, be it in terms of agriculture, be it in terms of infrastructure, be it in terms of social programs, healthcare, and all of that. These are what people need. Once they have this comfort, we're good to go.
Ayo, okay.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, let me begin by asking you this. I mean, I'm looking at statistics that we all know. Zamfara State as well as Kaduna State have been embroiled in a lot of insecurity challenges over the years. And since you are all about community engagement, we listen to security experts who continue to tell us that there is a lot of intelligence information that comes from the communities, and if we action them, we will not have the kind of challenges we are having in terms of insecurity. So in that regard, what kind of counsel would you be giving to Mr. President from your region, the Northwest in particular, concerning community engagement to stave the rate and the spate of insecurity?
Well, it's so unfortunate that the Northwest now is bedeviled by this issue of insecurity. But we have to look at the root cause of this insecurity. And the root cause of the insecurity has to do with out-of-school children, unemployment. These are all what is bringing about insecurity in the nation. So we need to, first of all, look at how do we tackle these issues so that our youth will be engaged, they will be employed. Those out-of-school children, we should find a way of making sure that they are getting education. So that is first and foremost thing to do. Then, you see, the issue of security is a very sensitive thing, which I'm not an expert on that, but I think Mr. President is doing his best to see that from the way you see the appointments being made of the service chiefs, the security architecture, you know, he has given a lot of priority on these appointments to people from the Northwest, because that is now the hotspot of insecurity in Nigeria. So from the ministers to the service chiefs, if you look at it, the two ministers of defense are from Northwest. The chief of army staff is from Northwest. The chief of defense staff is from Northwest. The chief of air staff is from my state, Kano. So he has built around the architecture of the security so that they work together and make sure they tame this insecurity issue. There's a lot of infiltration. I don't want to get into it, honestly, because I'm not an expert on security. But I think Mr. President is doing his best to make sure insecurity is being tackled.
Well, that is definitely something everyone is glad about. However, the reality, stares us in the face. Of course, we know you're not an expert in the area of insecurity, but at least the fact that you can counsel the president on community engagement is what this whole conversation is about. A good number of people, and I'm glad my colleagues also, questioned you around your conversations with local government authorities, and you also said the other time that the president cannot see all, may not be able to have access to all local government chairmen and all. But as someone who will be advising in the area of community engagement, insecurity starts from the localities. Insecurity is local as well as security. That's why the question is coming to you along that line. While you say that the other time some security chiefs are from your states, don't also forget that we have governors in these states. There are a number of them that have questioned whether or not collaboration is enough. They have had any semblance of collaboration to ensure that they do the needful in that area. Those are some of the questions that we'll be putting to you when we return from this break. Do stay with us.
Dr. Bosun Tijani. Dr. Bosun Tijani is currently the Nigerian Minister of Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy. A graduate of University of Jos, he started out as an entrepreneur and was co-founder and CEO of Co-Creation Hub, a technology innovation center that provides a cushy nest for innovators and creatives solving present social problems in Africa. Bosun has been named one of the 100 most influential people on the continent by New Africa magazine. He also received and initiated the visit of Mark Zuckerberg for the first time in Nigeria in August 2016. Dr. Bosun Tijani will be speaking at the platform. Date is Monday, 2nd of October 2023. Time 9 a.m. Venue is the Covenant Place, Igomo, right beside the National Theatre. See you there. This event will be broadcast live on Channels Television. The platform is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Southwood, fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
Politicians make lofty campaign promises, but do they really fulfill them? Are you worried about the quality of governance? Do you know how to hold your public officers and politicians accountable? As a Nigerian, do you even know your rights? Many questions begging for answers, but don't you worry. We've got you covered. We bring you Democracy 101 in 5, your reliable and easy-to-digest guide on citizens' rights, government responsibilities, rule of law, holding government accountable, and all things democracy. Democracy is more than elections. The real essence of democracy is what plays out after the elections. Democracy is about making government work for you. Watch Democracy 101 every weekday at 7:55 p.m. and Sundays at 8:55 p.m. on Channels Television. Democracy 101 in 5 is an initiative of Yaga Africa with support of the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, FCDO.
Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us the SSA to the President on community engagement Northwest, Abdullahi Tanko Yakasai. You know, that conversation that we're having with you, I mean, you would remember growing up that really the communities didn't really need the security agencies, the police or anyone. They found a way to secure themselves. They asked questions around who is who whenever they see any stranger in their environment. So security was a natural way of life. Add to that the fact that Kano has always been an economic hub of sorts as well as Kaduna, but what is coming out from the Northwest today is not very, very pleasant, where about 90-something% of people in Sokoto State, also in the Northwest, are said to be very, very poor, living in extreme multidimensional poverty. So, and you have also identified poverty and out-of-school children as the reasons for some of the insecurity issues we're having in the Northwest. So what would be your counsel to Mr. President, and what kind of collaboration would you suggest that will foster development, stave off insecurity, and improve the lives of the people?
Thank you so much. Just like you rightly said, when we were growing up, there was relatively no issue of insecurity then. So my suggestion has always been, you see, the traditional institutions, they have a very key important role to play, because they know their communities, they know the people they are governing. But they don't have any constitutional role. So there's need for, we will give advice that traditional rulers should have a constitutional role to play. Because well, whoever is domiciled in their domain, they know his character. They know who is good, they know who is bad. But the fact that they don't have any role to play constitutionally, that is making them not to be inactive. So we need to empower the traditional institutions, the community leaders. There has to be this constitutional role, defined constitutional role for traditional rulers, so as to be able to be checkmating all these people that are becoming, you know, menace to the society. So this is one. Then on the issue of the, you know, reduction of poverty, a lot needs to be done. A lot of work needs to be done. There has to be collaboration between the federal government, the state governments, and the local governments, so that there is need for a lot of programs, because government cannot do it alone. Government cannot be able to employ everybody. So we need to really concentrate on SMEs. We need to really get funding from NGOs development partners, you know, and multinational companies that do a lot of corporate social responsibility. So it entails a lot. There is a lot of work needed to be done so that this youth get engaged, you know, on different sectors, on different facets of life, that they can be earning and become independent. So this is my suggestion, and I think Mr. President is really looking into this area so that we get a lot of our youth engaged, get them employed, not directly by federal government, but how they can become you know, they can sustain themselves and their families. It's very important. This is one area that I think will really work to develop a concept, will conceptualize ideas on how we can, what we bring to the president so that a lot of this unemployment gets reduced. Once that is done, you have already taken the right step in reducing insecurity.
And I imagine that's the purpose for which your office, novel as it is, was designed. And I wonder what your findings in that regard would be. And that will form, you know, the crux of my question. Is there anything, Chamberlain had asked you earlier, but I wonder if your answer was satisfactory enough. Is there anything to suggest that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs is working with the subnationals in your geopolitical zone to take a second look at the social register from the past administration for the distribution of palliatives? Because it appears as if the governors are adopting an approach that suits them. Is there anything to suggest that that is ongoing so that the palliatives can in fact get to the vulnerable that actually need them?
Yes, absolutely, because from the time the Minister of Humanitarian, my sister Beta Edu, got appointed as the minister, she has come up and designed a lot of programs, especially what you talk about, the social register. They said they're going to make sure that they follow it logically to make sure those people on that register are really the beneficiaries of this social investment, you know? That is one. And she has made appointments just last week, or is it earlier this week? She has made appointments for each of these categories so that she will be having reportage directly to her, you know? So she has done a lot in re-strategizing that ministry, you know, because, well, a lot of people are thinking Ministry of Humanitarian is the sole ministry that will bring poor Nigerians out of poverty. There are other ones that are very strategic. Ministry of Education, we must make sure Ministry of Education get a whole lot of budget. I've seen Mr. President said the budget on Ministry of Education is going to increase significantly from next year. The budget on education, budget on health, so that our hospitals will be equipped. I mean, there are so many parameters to work on so as to bring out Nigerians out of this challenge that is facing us, that is making the country continuously nosediving, you know? So we need to do a lot, not only on humanitarian, but on other ministries, other agencies and departments that are relevant to socio-economic problems, so that we'll bring them on board, all of this, we'll bring them on board and make sure that we better the society, we bring a lot of development, we bring a lot of social you know, security to the people. So it's not just Ministry of Humanitarian we're looking at. There are other key ministries that also need to be involved and work in synergy to bring about this development.
You know, this matter of engaging the community, the last election showed a lot of divisions across party lines. So when is your duty just about engaging them for development, or would it also involve a mindset reorientation so that get the people to believe more in Nigeria and then work together to get Nigeria?
This is very, very important. You see, this community engagement goes just beyond what we've been talking about. So this is a very important question because it's part of it. Social reorientation. That's why we need to use the media a whole lot to bring about this reorientation, do a lot of programs, awareness programs that will bring us together because Nigeria is a great nation. We have our population, our diversity should be our strength. It should not be otherwise. So we need to have social reorientation. The elections have come and gone. And so it is very important that we all come on together. That is why Mr. President is giving a hand of friendship to even the opposition parties to come together because we have no other country. This is our country, and the future of our children is very important. So we need to come together and work for the betterment of Nigeria. So this social reorientation is very key. Mr. President is not, there's been a lot of cries that he's been appointing people that did not even work for him or worked against him. But that's to show you the character of Aswaju. Mr. President, His Excellency Aswaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That is his character. He's a man with a large heart. He accommodates everyone. And so people should look at it in this way and give him a chance. It's just 100 days or so in office. Because it's too early to see visibly the results he's working to get, but we get there.
All right, let's wind down with this. I mean, so at the end of the day, what indices would you be looking at for which you can then say, well, we think we've done the job here? Would you be relying on the testimony or testimonial from the people or the indices that you set for yourself?
Well, it has to be both. Because for us, in the Renewed Hope mandate, Mr. President aimed to generate 20 million employment, to take out 20 million people and get them employed, either by, not through government alone, by empowerment and SMEs and what have you. So we'll be working with that, his Renewed Hope mandate agenda, and make sure that we work towards, with the indices that are being placed in that Renewed Hope mandate, we'll be working to achieve all these milestones. Gradually, we'll be working to achieve all these milestones. For instance, in the Northwest, which is the largest in terms of population, if, for instance, in each state, we're able to generate a 1 million job in the next 4 years. That's 7 million jobs. It's achievable. We can do it. If the will is there, we can do it. Because you can get a lot of programs and put these young ones on it and make sure you follow it strategically for it to be sustainable.
But how sustainable do you think these things will be if we don't address the question of power supply?
That is one key area that Mr. President. Remember, Mr. President is the first governor or is the first person in Nigeria to have an independent power plant in Lagos. He was the first person to do that. So the issue of power, without it, there can't be any development. There can't be any change. So power is very critical to the economy. And Mr. President is working seriously to make sure we improve this power. The Minister of Power recently said there's going to be an increase, I think between, in the next 4 years, they're looking at generating 5,000 megawatts to add to what we have. So there are a lot of bottlenecks on this power sector. Once you bring on all these independent power plants, like in China, I've read it somewhere that China uses hydro, little hydro power plants coming up together to make a quantum of megawatts that is sustaining part of the Chinese people. So even if we look at this, the wind is there, the solar is there, the hydro is there, we can do a lot.
Well, we'll wait and see, because we know governments did say they were going to provide, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000. we know where we are as of
This
today,
government has the
despite
will,
of all.
Mr. Chamberlain.
Well, you know what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
That is true.
Well, that this, as you say, this government has the will. We'll see. We all expect things to go well, actually. But it will be interesting to see how all of these things play out. But thank you for coming on. Abdullahi Tanko Akasa is the Senior Special Advisor to Assistant to the Community Engagement to the President for the Northwest region. We will be back in a moment. Stay on with us.
On October the 1st, 2023, Nigeria will be over 23,000 days, 756 months, 63 years as a sovereign nation. Watch Channels Television as it brings you Independence Day Special with the theme, Empowering Tomorrow, a New Vision for Nigeria, with seasoned analysts, erudite scholars, and policymakers to blaze a new trail.
Vision for the economy, not about the 10 or 4 years, but a vision that talks about what you want to make of this economy in the next 10 years, which means you must look beyond your own time in the office.
If we're weighing down the military on all sorts of internal issues that we're having, who is going to solve this issue? We need to start empowering all the other civil policing agencies we have.
Join us on Sunday, October the 1st, 2023, 7 to 9 a.m. to dissect the president's speech. Then Sunday Politics, 7 to 9 p.m. On Monday, we return with a bang between 5 to 9 p.m. for a town hall, only on Channels Television, a network built on trust.
We will try as much as possible to be very truthful to Nigerians, to be transparent in our dealings, and to be accountable, because that is the message that I got from Mr. President when he sent me here. I will repeat again that this ministry will be a renewed ministry, a very transparent ministry that will manage the affairs of information and national orientation for this country. And I've also received this briefing from Mr. President that we should put national reorientation at the core of our affairs. It's not just about disseminating information, but all of you will agree with me that Nigeria requires so much of reorientation to reset our nation, so that together we'll all build the country that we all desire. Mr. President has said it severally since he assumed office, that Nigeria is our country, and there is no north, there is no south, but there is Nigeria. All of us, those in this industry and those in other sectors, have to join hands together for the benefit of our people.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, Mr. Michael Mary, former DG National Orientation Agency, joins us next here. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for inviting me. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well. That statement from the Minister of Information, when listening to that now, you think, okay, this is the kind of narratives, the way Nigerians would love to see things. But we know when it comes to elections, these kind of things, that's not what we see play out from politicians. So ideally, that's an ideal situation, which he said, that is the thinking, perhaps, of the president at the moment. But there are several things just running through several people's minds listening to that one. Lovely to hear him say that kind of thing. But you, having led national orientation, that's part of what we're going to talk about largely here today. For him saying, there's no north, there is no south, there's supposed to see each other as one. In terms of the practical realities, I mean, we keep reminding ourselves, I think it was Mr. Alder who also suggested that, for instance, if you look at different regions and call them economic zones, the strength of those regions, you could call this different zones, different economy could thrive in those areas. That would be a lovely way to start. But having listened to him in terms of what he wants to do, you've been there. You know the challenges of that office and the citizens of Nigeria, how they received your message when you tried. What would you suggest we do moving forward in the light of the minister's comment there?
So first and foremost, Chamberlain, this is a good mindset to come into office with, in setting agenda for national orientation for this country. And I want to commend the president, even though I'm not in his party. But I want to commend him for restoring national orientation to that level that it should be. The previous government spent so much time trying to denigrate and destroy that agency. It was not Ministry of Information and National Orientation. It was reduced to a department or a unit in the Ministry of Information. It was never even, in the first instance, contemplated to be in the Ministry of Information. So when it was aggregated into that ministry and reduced to that level, it couldn't discharge it.
What was the structure when you served?
It was in the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and National Orientation. And even at that time, we were advocating that it should be done into a commission, proper structure under the presidency, so that it can have more powers, more access, and therefore able to discharge functions specified for it in its mandate and the Constitution. So it's a good mindset for the minister, and I hope he will work with it. In Nigeria, we are not in short supply of the indices or things that will make us come together as one. There are so many of them. But we do neglect them for personal interest and for politics, most of the time. Because when we fail in this other area, we fail in the other area, we now grab the issue of region and religion. And largely because majority of our population are illiterate, so they fall for it. So they are not arguing, the populace are not arguing, indeed they are not even interested in the things or in discussing with them, partnering with them, discussing to partner with them in matters of development. They are rather comfortable with this issue of religion and region and tribe and all that things that make development uncomfortable to achieve.
What challenges will the ministry face if they are to achieve this?
Well, essentially, the ministry has a lot of work to do based on our experience. They should work a lot with traditional. First and foremost, let us look the values we have in our constitution. I think chapter 2 or so, section 23 or thereabout of the constitution provided what our national values and ethics should be. I think we have outlived those, or they are not relevant anymore to reshape them. Let us talk about what the minister said as part of our values, our Nigerianness. One, our heritage and environment should be valued. If we look at some of these and redefine the values that are in our constitution and pursue it, make sure that it's taught in every space, I think we'll get somewhere. It is not enough that we'll come with a mantra to, like they say, renewed hope. Who knows about it? Only the members of the party, of the president's party, know about what renewed hope is. Why can't we make it a national issue? Why can't we sensitize people and say these are the values associated with this renewed hope mandate, and this is what is expected of each individual to do. This is what is expected of government. So government have expectations, citizens have expectations, and then we meet somewhere to gauge our performance and progress. If we don't have it, every administration will come with one new mantra or the other, and we'll just be dancing along in the same circle.
So maybe the matter of values that you've talked about, again, going from what the minister was saying, we need to remove this region. I'm not from the north, no north, no south, no east, no west. We're Nigerian. Would it be that easy, considering that practically all our data gathering platforms have that thing of state of origin, religion? Can we begin to do this without changing the other part?
Well, there are so many, I have seen many examples that also have those kind of things, not in Nigeria. But they are doing that for the purpose of planning, simply because they have been able to promote national pride. The American, Canadian, and so forth. And so it's not as if they don't have their differences or different languages and groups and even some not belonging to any religion. You know, but here, in our constitution, one of the values is religious tolerance. Why should we talk about religious tolerance when it should be a personal thing, a very private thing? Why should we even put in our constitution?
That's religion?
Yes. Religious tolerance is an ethic, is something there, it's in the constitution.
You suggest we should scrap it?
It should not be there. These are personal things. Let the issue of religious tolerance be left with the religious institutions. Otherwise, and then you put religious tolerance clearly in the minds of people is Christianity and Islam. What about traditional religion? What about others?
How does that even tie into the fact that Nigeria is supposed to be a secular state?
Exactly. That is why I say let us look at the 7 values in the Constitution, or the ethics values in the Constitution, and redefine them. Times have changed.
Let's step back a bit.
Yes.
What's in the Constitution, what is in our national anthem, for instance? Service, love, strength, unity, and faith. These are some of the values you get from our national anthem and the pledge. And we sing that every time and say it every time.
That is the contradiction. The law, you are calling these ones love, service, but the Constitution says integrity, discipline, religious tolerance. You check it. They are different. What I am saying, let's have an instrument of harmony so that we can talk to ourselves in the language that is common to all of us. It is easy to refine it. I should be more prouder in the Nigerian population than in my small ethnic group of Alago in Kiana. If I say I'm Alago, people don't even know. In Nasarawa there. So why? But if we are Nigerians, we have a common value. We need to protect that environment. We have a common heritage. These are the values. These are some of the things that should be.
Politicians appear to be the most guilty of this division, taking advantage of our fault lines when it comes to campaign, when they have to win elections. You see them bear their fangs in this area, and that causes a lot of division amongst the people. So, yes, it's good to say this, but many will also suggest, well, politicians should take this advice first and foremost. But how easy or difficult do you think it would be?
I agree with you, Chamberlain, without, you see, through mass public education, it should be consistent so that we remove these people, the voters, from the politicians and their antics. I have a lot of examples to give you. In Nasarawa State here, for instance, we have always lived, we didn't even know that this one is Muslim, that one is Christian, that one is, we were together. Everybody was voting, doing his thing. But suddenly, from nowhere in this period, we have seen the emergence of religion as a factor to decide who will rule Nasarawa or who will govern Nasarawa. And we have such examples nearly everywhere. So any politician, first and foremost, in this public education, we must let the citizens realize that any politician who starts talking about 1, 2, 3 things, reject him in the first place. Anyone that is really, let us define our national goals and remove this issue of religion and issue of ethnicity from them. So anyone with those tendencies, we know that he's not coming to do the right thing. Because we have so many malams and pastors in governance, and yet the country is still in the mud. So anyone who wants to be malam or who wants to preach and propagate his religion, let it not come to government. Let him go to the institutions established or start his own church or mosque or whatever he wants, or shrine.
Okay, some of these things you talked about, they're considered personal traits that one needs to build for himself.
Correct.
But yet they're in the Constitution: discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, like the only thing that should be out there: social justice, religion, self-reliance, and patriotism.
Exactly.
So if you said we should do away with this, on what grounds can we begin to say, okay, we want to begin to pull things together?
Then we bring new sets of things that are binding, that can bind us more together. And I gave you an example. I'd say our heritage and our environment, because you cannot have a heritage without environment. Okay, we should talk about our Nigerianness. let us isolate all of these things together. For the purpose of planning, it doesn't matter if your state of origin and religion is there. For the purpose of planning, although you can actually remove religion from your forms. It doesn't matter. Plan for Nigerian, whatever he is, whether he's sick, deranged, whatever. Plan for him. It does not matter whether he is a Christian or a Muslim. Why are you doing that? What importance is that to your planning?
All right, we'll take a look at some of these matters and probably get an update on how to move forward. That's when we return in a moment. Don't go away.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of a family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Vusi Thembekwayo. Vusi Thembekwayo is a South African entrepreneur, author, and businessman. He is the founder and CEO of My Growth Fund Venture Partners. He is a trusted advisor to Fortune 500 companies and blue-chip corporates across the world, and was the youngest African entrepreneur to grace the cover of Entrepreneur magazine. Vusi will be speaking at the platform. Date is Monday, 2nd of October 2023. Time 9 a.m. Venue is the Covenant Place, Igomo, right beside the National Theatre. See you there. This event will be broadcast live on Channels Television. The platform is powered by the Covenant Nation.
Southwood. Fine furnishings for your home and office. Southwood is a Nigerian company dedicated to improving the quality of workplaces and homes. Our space planning and craftsmanship allows you to create a highly customized and comfortable office environment for hardworking and busy executives. Southwood solutions are perfect for today's flexible work cultures. Teamwork, transparency, collaboration. A well-designed and comfortable work environment is proven to increase productivity and morale. Our elegant home furnishings provide the ultimate in comfort and quality. Southwood, furnishings that shape your world. Visit us today at southwoodnigeria.com. Email us at furniture@southwoodnigeria.com or call 0700-FURNITURE.
Welcome back. Let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
Yes, thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Mary, it appears as if you're suggesting the kick-starting of another national conversation such that those values can be rethought and reproduced. If that is the case, how can, what role can your orientation agency play in starting it without, necessarily it being from a formal setting, especially from the local government level, because Nigerians are first from a community, from a local government, before they are from, they identify as being from a state or, at the national level?
Okay, thank you for that. First, even at the National Orientation Agency level, for instance, which is spread into the local government areas, we can ask for a collation of the things that the people of those communities consider as more valuable to them, not these ones that were imagined in, I don't know, maybe in Abuja or in Aso Rock. Now, if we get them together, definitely you will find, and it will not take you so much to know that today, what the average Nigerian wants is to see care, to see fairness, to see honesty in display by government and people outside government. And could these be our values? Can we operate within this environment? And these are part of our heritage, part of the environment we grew. Now we abandoned them and brought issues like religious tolerance, like discipline, integrity. These are supposed to be personal values taught at home, shaped by the community generally. So let us move, let us step our game up, collate what the communities have. Definitely you find these principles, proven principles that shape governance, societal governance. And then you take them out to the public, you engage every social space, the media, the culture industry, the music, and everyone. Sit down with the Movie Producers Association of Nigeria. Sit down with the musicians in Nigeria. Let us see this kind of cultural engagement penetrate our fabric. You will see that the messaging will be tuned towards promoting Nigeria and our Nigerianness. We don't want to see music. You wouldn't want to see Nigerian musicians singing Nigeria Jaga Jaga. Let us see Nigerians. Let us hear music that is uniting, that is promoting the values of this country. It's happened. People in Jamaica are singing Jamaican songs and promoting their country, America, everywhere. What is wrong with us? Simply because we are not engaging the right people to do the right things. So the minister, following from what he has just said, has a lot to do to take this message beyond his seat and the four corners of his office. He should work with the National Orientation Agency to infuse this thinking of government into the very structure of our of the nation.
What limitations?
Then let's begin to eliminate all those issues. Like I said, when you want to feel from, they ask you your religion. That is not important, because you're not planning for religion, you're planning for the human being. State of origin, remove that one. Put in state of residence. You know that this number of people are residing in this part of this, so you plan for them. That is what we need to see, not to be upholding the things that we have tried over almost 60-something years. It has failed us. We want to continue. No. We should have a new direction, please.
What limitations do you think that government bureaucracy can serve as an impediment against the success of what you're proposing? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, how can it be enduring such that even if it is achieved, it will be insulated from the politics of, the electioneering cycles of every 4 years?
A responsible government elected by the people, a structure that has found itself into government in Nigeria and wants to effect a change and bring renewed hope to the citizens, should fund, that is the bureaucracy, fund this idea. That is one. It should accept it and fund it. Secondly, it should remove, although the minister is talking, like I said, it's a good mindset, can you please turn the agency into a commission and give it these marching orders and have certain basic criteria outlined that it will be judged and assessed? So if we are able to do this, because now the bureaucracy is that you go from agency to minister to budget to president, and so forth and so on. Meanwhile, I know that when I was there were certain executive decisions and actions that needed direct communication between the president and the agency, and we used to get that and discharge it. Now, if you are to have that kind of direct communication from the president or the presidency that is coming, not even routed through your ministry, it may even create some conflict with the minister. So let us accept that, look, we have a national, because no development can even go successfully and become enduring if you don't have the people supporting it as the base. Now, about sustainability, once this thing is imbibed, you don't need to keep repeating it, because the people themselves will repeat it in their interactions with people, in their involvement with governance, in the ideas they generate, in the energy they put into doing things, all towards the good, each and every one of us, and for the progress of our nation. It can happen. Because it's being done elsewhere. Why can't it be done here?
That is the expectation. One more thing. Education is at the heart of the success of, our national values. And also from the Minister of Education, he's saying that the federal government is ready to commit 25% of national budget to education. How optimistic are you that that will be a reality in the light of what budgets have been like in the past? And what do we make of it, particularly also because the minister has said that the federal government is ready to grant autonomy to the tertiary institutions at the federal level?
Let me tell you one thing. Nigeria has always committed more than 25% of its budget to education. How, you would say? In the state, all the 36 states commit some resources. The federal government commits some resources. Put it together, it's more than 25%. It is the attitude at implementation and the greed associated with the activities of those charged with the responsibility of administering these resources that is fretting the resources away and making our education look so terrible. If we can spend the money rightly to put our classrooms and provide the books and train teachers, what else do you need? These are the basics. These are the basics that a school needs. Just get the apparatus, teaching apparatus, get the teachers and the classrooms.
Well,
so that the child will be happy to go there. And then you make the environment, in your teaching and orientation, let parents and everybody know that the opportunity you are giving for education is not necessarily for them to come and work in government. It's for them to have the capacity to fend, to drive their lives, and then achieve the self-preservation that we are talking about.
So, Mary, I go back to
but
that.
We are training people for government.
Yeah. Well, I go back to that reference that you made to Section 23 of the Constitution on national ethics, which says discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, and patriotism shall be the national ethics. You say that they are outdated. In what way? Aren't they relevant? They are not relevant anymore to us. Integrity is not relevant. Discipline is not relevant. Dignity of labor is not relevant. Help us understand what you mean.
These are concepts that can come out of the values of care, like the values of honesty, the values of, the values of love. These are variables that, because if you have love, if you are fair to your neighbor or your fellow compatriot, those concepts will play out. So what we are doing is we left the key concept and are talking about the variables of the concept as our national values.
So just to be clear,
we are doing religious tolerance without love.
So if you are going
we
to
are doing discipline without honesty.
Okay. All right, so if you're going to propose an adjustment to this section, what would you be proposing?
That is why I said, let us go back and look at what the values in the communities are. And these values today, what Nigerians, even if you read the papers, you listen to, people are talking about fairness and equity. People are talking about honesty. You win election, you didn't win election, you insist that you won the election. Where is the moral high ground? You put siren and jumping all over the place, insisting that you won an election that you know you clearly lost, and in your private concert, you tell people that you have lost, but you are going to challenge it in court and use technicalities. People know, so there is no sync between the conduct, action, and even the glory we celebrate, and the expectations of society. People should be people enough. They should be human enough that when you lose an election, admit that I have lost an election. Let me go and start something. Don't start looking for technicalities. Because where the law is there, you are still looking for another version of the law that is now called technical law. Oh my God.
Well,
so
on
essentially,
that, yes.
Yeah.
No, go ahead and land on that thought.
Yeah, so essentially, let us see this value of care, value of fairness, value of respecting our heritage and environment. Let the culturality of our ethics reflect in our conduct.
Well, in that, you say we should go back to our localities, our communities, which have their own specific cultures. And you also spoke about another culture that we have, a political culture of looking for something where there is not, hoping to find it based on technicalities. We had this conversation on Monday where our guest was telling us that one of the things that we lack is a culture that is unique or peculiar to us, especially in terms of leadership, of our leadership recruitment strategy. In fact, he made it clear, specifically he said, that culture will eat your strategy for lunch. So in terms of our culture, what have we lacked over time that has affected our progress, our development, our growth, our nationhood? What is it that we had that we seem to have lost in the various communities that we have, and how do you think we can bring those things back?
I was discussing with an elder statesman some time ago. He said in 1947, when they were discussing independence, he was a student law. And at one of the conferences, 1945 or something, he paid his way to go to Lancaster House or one of those chambers to go and sit down and be part of, and was writing notes and giving leaders from this country. Was not paid to do it. And we emerged as a nation that had some, level of cohesiveness at a point. It was about Nigeria. Then suddenly, circumstantial individualism propped itself up. And that is where you have people becoming greedy, people becoming self-centered, planning for self rather than community, and so forth and so on. These are the things that eroded that common culture of development that we had. We never used to see, I didn't know the difference, like I kept telling people, I didn't know the difference in religion until I came from Maiduguri to Jos. I didn't know the difference between Igbo, Yoruba, and all sorts of things, because I'm even a minority tribe. So I saw, first and foremost, a human being. Then later, as I'm growing now, I'm being, you'll be shortchanged, or you'll be identified, and isolated based on tribe, religion, and so forth and so on. Mundane things that have helped nobody so far.
Okay, let me ask this one question, Mr. Omeri. Given what the Minister of Information and National Orientation said, do you think we can achieve a national orientation of unity from what you know? And if you have doubts, let us know. If you think it is possible, what are the things that we must do, be it at the federal or state level, to ensure that we have a united front in terms of national orientation?
Begin by removing religious tolerance in your constitution and all aspects of religion. These are divisive things. Okay? Let us not carry the things that are personal and private to statecraft. We see the gradual involvement of religious leaders in government. They even want to shape policies and direct. If they have ideas to give or suggestions to make, there should be channels of doing that. So they should be in the background. They should have channels of doing that. They should not come to you see, they will tell you the Sultan is going there, has put mouth in this matter, Christian Association has put mouth. What is their business with it?
Do you think we should continue with the quota system?
Quota system operates everywhere. There's nothing wrong with it. But you should have a quota system. Federal character, I meant.
Okay, not quota system.
Federal character. Yes. Because in quota system, you run the risk of leaving people out. In federal character, for the purpose of allaying the fears of other people, because there is no society that has monopoly of illiterates or ignorance. There's no society that has
So we should do away with quota system but continue federal character?
Federal character is good.
But not quota system?
Not quota system.
How do we strengthen that? Because, I mean, you've seen several cases where people talk about even this federal character has been grossly violated in some areas.
Yes, it's again the attitude of the operators. The idea is not bad. It's the attitude of the operators. And so that is where the issue of punishment, appropriate punishment or adequate punishment comes in.
Well, as we wind down, I mean, you spoke last time about value system in the country. Now that the ministry is thinking about this, what would you advise whoever takes over, how they should approach the question of showing up our value system in the country?
They should look for our traditional rulers who must be sincere that they love this country as much as they love their community and their titles.
We'll have some insincere ones among them.
Well, because they don't want to talk about it. From my experience, when I said, let's talk about it, they refused to do so.
Why?
Is their reason. They thought, because, look, many of my own conclusion, many of our traditional rulers are promoting vices against values. Somebody steals money from wherever, comes and displays it anyhow in community, they gave him the best title in town. And they tell you that even if you are the senior person, if you are a senior person in the community, you don't have money, prepare to attend meeting as to pick chairs. Because the rich people who are coming with questionable wealth are the ones that will come and sit on the high table. Meanwhile, there are people that have demonstrated sufficient values in the communities, either as farmers, traders, or, in various forms, drummers and so forth. Nobody recognizes them.
But the speaker, I think I heard him say at some point that they intend to give constitutional roles to traditional rulers. Should he proceed with that, or should just forget about it in light of what you just said?
If you want, you can define it. If you want to give the traditional rulers constitutional role, let it be along the values that we are talking about. Let it not come from somewhere, some strange definition. Let us go back and find out what are the things that they need to do in the communities, what are the things that they were doing before and they need to do or can still do now.
What would you
so
suggest?
That we don't have contradiction in governance.
What would you suggest?
Otherwise, you find the emir and the local government chairman fighting. So I suggest that we should do a system study. I identify the things that traditional rulers can do or should do in communities and what would be the role of other agents of government. So we don't have clashes. If not, believe me, you will see traditional rulers will remove their robe and exchange blows. Because they will come and the fight will be just because they are trying to fight over resources.
All right, Mr. Michael Mary, former DG, National Orientation Agency, thank you for your time here today.
Thank you.
Let's see some messages coming through from you. Festus tweet says, pardon me, this is Woke. It says, being a Nigerian citizen is already a constitutional role for everyone to report evil/crime wherever they see it. Constitution should not be amended for it. Rather, we need massive orientation in the country.
Well, the Festus Akimbo is talking, says the Nigeria's economic performance has been disastrous for about 21 years, and the consequences are the 133 million Nigerians in multinational poverty, high unemployment, crashing value of our currency, high inflation, and incessant labor strikes. The solution to these problems is to focus on productivity. We must produce what we consume and consume what we produce. Now that the new CBN governor and members of his team have been confirmed, it must not be business as usual. Festus Akimbo.
And this one is from Professor Imonoka Inakina. He says, state of the nation, the economic development and prosperity of Nigeria must evolve through and from the local and state economies to building a confederation with a viable and sustainable developed economy whose principles and policies are independent in building an entrepreneurial economy that is indigenous and unleash the power of true conceptualization of an industrial and innovating economy in transforming an indigenous economic integration of a prosperous nation that would reduce poverty in Nigeria to forestall this perennial insecurity gulping huge chunk of our national budget? That's convoluted.
Olabode Ajibola, talking about palliatives, says quite a number of Nigerians are completely fuming right now with the way and manner the federal government is handling the issue of palliative. Indeed, a government that has a clear direction for her citizens by now, we should have been seeing some level of progress in the area of transportation, food, and health. But the reverse is the case. More importantly, many of us are never in support of the idea of palliative, and reasons being the fact that the lesson we learned from the COVID-19 experience have signified a red flag when it comes to distribution just because of greed of our leaders. And it's quite unfortunate and embarrassing that the same government is coming up with the same fraudulent program to deceive us once again, rather than talking about the seamless way of proffering an everlasting solution to the hardship in the land by way of channeling the billions of naira to the appropriate program that will benefit Nigerians, every Nigerian across the Federation.
Well, sounds interesting. I mean, the word everlasting solution stuck out there. But okay, would be nice, wouldn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Well, that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Chamberlain, so have a very good day.
I'm now Taigbe. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
October 1 is Sunday. Wish Nigeria well. I am Akinde. Have a great day.